Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Benchwarmers. It is Monday at the usual time. I am Benjamin. Pleasure to see you all. JM1620 in the house, as always. I know everybody else will be trickling in here momentarily. There's Elk Dot. What's going on, brother? As a reminder, if you're not able to catch the show live, you can catch us on YouTube at Hat-Club. Be sure to subscribe to us, which is a fancy word for follow. Give us a like if you like what you see. Flashfire. He's got 2 words for you. Fuck and you. Love it. Wife in the chat. There she is. Babe, I apologize. I forgot to put my wedding ring on. I was cleaning the house, so that's why I didn't have it on. So anyway, Chin860, what's going on? My name is Eric. Who else we got in here? Tone Cruz, of course. What is going on, guys? And Kicks in DC. Can't forget about you. I know. Drama that I forgot my ring. So anyway, I didn't want to ruin it. I know it's metal and everything like that, but like I said, I'm cleaning the house. But anyway, first time in a while, got a new jersey in. Obviously had that University of Illinois one that came in last week, but I had one come in today. I bought 3 yesterday from a buddy of mine back in North Carolina, and then I've got another one coming in the mail. So next week's show is going to be hot for jersey activity. But this is one I already had. The only reason why I bought it is because it was cheap. So I do plan on reselling it, maybe make a few bucks off of it. But really kind of weird that it was hanging online for as long as it was. But Houston Rockets, number 33. That, of course, is Otis Thorpe, who is a product of the 1984 NBA draft system. And somebody who I say often, the Blazers decided to not take Michael Jordan. Yeah. And, so of course they needed a center, needed a power forward, something in the paint, whatever. And you know who was available? Besides Charles Barkley, obviously, Otis goddamn Thorpe. And somehow miraculously made his way to the Houston Rockets for both of their back-to-back titles. And would have been a much better selection than anybody else, I think, realistically, for a post position who was available. Because obviously Hakeem Olajuwon went number 1 in that draft. But yeah, shout out to Sam Bowie. Like, he had a decent but injury-plagued career, much like his collegiate career at Kentucky. It was very injury-plagued. So I get why the Blazers took him, but they could have gotten Otis Thorpe easily, but they didn't. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to flip this one. Really good condition. So I might actually keep this one and flip my other one. I could figure out which one's in better condition. But anyway, lead off for the show, and I don't mean that as in a joking manner, but it is going to be baseball discussion. Going back to what we talked about last week, because it was breaking news. The passing of Pete Rose at the age of 83. The hit king, Charlie Hustle, whatever you want to call him, passed away due to heart disease at the age of 83. And of course, it occurred. The news broke during the show last week. So I wasn't prepared for it, neither was anybody else. So I had to say a few words going into it for this week. But in regard to everything dark in his life, as Flashfire brings up, and I'm not going to talk about that. From a baseball perspective, easily one of the best. And, for a lot of people that talk about, well, it's his time to go into the Hall of Fame. Now that it's going to be posthumous, whatever. But the reality is, if you've never been to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, or the Baseball Hall of Fame is actually what it's called. It doesn't just necessarily encapsulate Major League Baseball. There's a lot of other historical stuff in collegiate, women's baseball, etc. that's in the Hall of Fame. There is a section that is dedicated to Pete Rose. So it's not to say that the Hall of Fame has been keeping him out. Major League Baseball has been keeping him out more than anything. And the Hall of Fame basically adheres to the will of Major League Baseball, a lot of other leagues, but then more importantly, as far as being voted into the Hall of Fame, that's up to the Baseball Writers Association of America. So do not criticize the National Baseball Hall of Fame for keeping him out, despite the fact that, like I said, there is not a wing dedicated to him, but like a little section. I think it's on the second or third floor that's dedicated to Pete Rose. So anyway, a couple things I want to dish about in regard to this is obviously I talked about the 4,256 hits that he had for his career, 303 lifetime batting average. Going back to something I was kind of joking about, but at the same time, like there is a lot of truth to it. Ichiro Suzuki would have had Ichiro the age of anywhere between 18 and 20. Just because of the fact that his combined career record between Japanese baseball and, of course, Major League Baseball definitely Pete Rose, the Hit King. But these players, with the exception of, say, like a Hideo Nomo, um, Sasaki Shinjo, Kazuhiro Sasaki. From a hitting perspective, nobody had really like dominated the way that Ichiro did when he came in at 28 years old. So for him to win Rookie of the Year and MVP and help the Seattle Mariners get to the best record of all time, or at least tie it, the best record of all time in Major League Baseball history. Who's to say what would have happened if Ichiro would have come in, like I said, between the ages of 18 and 20? But focusing on Pete Rose specifically, he was an MVP, got Rookie of the Year, 17-time All-Star, which is pretty ridiculous unto itself. 3-time World Series champion. Of course, that was 2 with the Reds, 1 with the Philadelphia Phillies back in 1980. 2-time Gold Glove winner, Silver Slugger winner, World Series MVP, 3 batting titles, and a Roberto Clemente Award winner as well. So played for 3 different teams. Of course, his hometown Cincinnati Reds, but then played for the Phillies for a bit, and then 1 season with the Montreal Expos, which is actually where he got his 4,000th hit. So, um, whatever. It kind of goes to the grave. But the gambling perspective is something that does need to be talked about, just because of the fact that that's what kept him out of the Baseball Hall of Fame for as long as it has. When he became a manager of the Cincinnati Reds and he got caught for gambling on baseball, never bet against his Cincinnati Reds, but still a big no-no, especially going back to the 1919 Chicago White Sox, aka Black Sox, and that entire squad got banned. Just because the fact that they took monies from gamblers and basically fixed the 1919 World Series. But in this case, because of the fact that Pete Rose was betting on baseball and Major League Baseball is a hard ideology, I'm going to say. However, let's look at professional sports at least over the last, we'll go 4 or 5 years. And the jokes have been flying, of course, on social media in regard to, when it's going to be announced that now that Pete has passed away, when Major League Baseball is going to kind of come to quote unquote their senses and allow him into the Hall of Fame. And or in a segment sponsored by DraftKings, Bet ESPN, Bet MGM, or whatever. The fact that gambling has become such a mistress of professional sports these days. And like I said, I'm just going 4 to 5 years back. Sports gambling's been around for the last century plus, but most notably the last 4 to 5 years, where everything within sports is being sponsored by gambling websites, casinos, and etc. Um, is absolute nonsense. And especially considering the fact that players are being banned and punished. This goes to the NFL, this goes to the NBA, professional soccer, et cetera, and of course Major League Baseball, where there have been some players that have been popped for that recently. Um, the hypocrisy that kind of goes hand in hand with this situation is palpable, and it really needs to be fixed. Um, I mean, what the kid for the Nationals who got demoted because rallies in and the Nationals had a day game against the Cubs later that day. And it's just like, okay, but he's not betting on baseball. He's just in a casino hanging out, and so the hell what? And especially coming from a quote unquote, jokingly, of course, I say this, degenerate gambler myself. But I don't have all the answers, but I just feel like this is a discussion that needs to be broken down to more specifics. Yes, you cannot bet on the sport that you are playing in. I totally get banning somebody, suspending somebody for that. But in regard to just gambling in general, whereas, like I said, every sports news network has some kind of sponsorship or is in bed with some kind of gambling website or casino, it's very, very, it's very apparent and hypocritical. Know that Pete's going to get in the hall, especially considering everything that's going on with the Chicago White Sox, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and most notably the Oakland A's. Major League Baseball could definitely use some good PR at the moment. And until they come to their senses and start forcing, don't give a shit about spending money, but are taking money because of revenue sharing. So a lot of problems to go with this. So anyway, what do you guys got to say in the comments about this? So flash fire, throwing this one out here. I kind of disagree on one thing though. Yeah, gambling is being pushed on everybody, but I see it as being different when it's you or I compare, or you or I compare to an athlete betting on the sport they play. Integrity isn't question. Integrity isn't in question when it's a random person betting. I totally agree with that. David Kearns, what's going on? Having dinner. Enjoy your dinner, brother. Um, but yeah. Oh, Sub Diego says, okay, I never heard that. Now, Sub Diego said that Pete Rose was roided out. I don't believe that. He was a very large individual. Like, don't get me wrong. But then again, it's just like there were Harmon Killebrew and a bunch of other players who were just like massive human beings. Babe Ruth, but I mean, that wasn't like muscular. I mean, he was just a big dude. So I don't have a lot of credence in that. The 80s, players were definitely like amphetamines, greenies, cocaine, whatever. There was a lot of weird shit that was kind of going around back in those days. So I don't feel like personally for me, or at least I didn't notice steroids really coming on the scene until at least the mid to late 80s. But then it was definitely rampant throughout the 90s and early 2000s. So that's all I kind of got to say on that. So anyway, postseason baseball. Um, the wild card games were nuts, with the exception of the Kansas City Royals and the Baltimore Orioles, which was a snooze fest of a postseason matchup. And you could actually make the same claim in regard to the Atlanta Braves and San Diego Padres, but I think a lot more people are pulling for the Padres, so that kind of worked out perfectly. But the fact that the Detroit Tigers in Houston, back-to-back games, and game one was a nail biter, considering the fact they took a 3-0 lead into the ninth inning. And the Astros, definitely put him to the limits. But then game two was nuts because the Astros did get the lead, and then they put Josh Hader in to try and finish the game out. And then that's when the Tigers offense just turned on. So they took 2-0 out of Houston on that one. The New York Mets, Milwaukee Brewers, I'm still reeling over. And if you caught our fantasy football show this last, because Pete Alonso hit that, or eventual game winner, 3-run home run off of Devin Williams. And as it's come out, and especially looking at video evidence, Devin Williams was definitely tipping his pitches. So I'm not surprised Pete Alonso capitalized on that. Because Adams keep getting in arguments through the Hack Club Twitter account in regard to this, as far as which teams I want to see advance to not only the LCS, but to the World Series. Tigers, Guardians from the American League side, and especially now for the National League side, the Padres, the Brewers were in that mix as well, because the fact that I was born in 1983. My earliest baseball memory for a World Series is this. So I remember watching the Mets win the World Series, Red Sox fan, and she was losing her goddamn mind. So Royals did win in 83. Tigers did win in 84. Royals did win in 85. But thankfully, the Royals winning in 2015 knocked them off the list. So technically, the Orioles and the Tigers, I was alive for, but I don't remember it. I don't remember witnessing it. And so they're kind of added to the list. So as of right now, 30 teams in Major League Baseball, and there are 9 teams that I've still yet. Three teams are playing one another, and that's Detroit and Cleveland. And to which case, I don't know if you guys watched the game today, but I had to wait until the game was over to start the show. So that's why I started like 5 minutes later than I wanted to. But game one was obviously a blowout. Game two and the underdogs. And this plays a factor because my wife basically bet on all the underdogs. And so in my series, I would have figured the Tigers were the underdog for this, but they were not. But I'll go jump ahead of this one. So Tigers win in the top of the 9th inning thanks to a Kerry Carpenter home run. And yes, Carpenter as in we've only just begun. Anyway, tied up the series today, 1-1. Great pitching effort on both sides. Just kind of unfortunate, but also very dramatic that it came down to a 3-run home run to win this game. Now the series goes back to Detroit for the first time that the Tigers are going to be playing in Detroit this postseason. So going back to the wild card series and how remarkable a job it was that they beat the Astros in Houston, which is hands down one of the most dangerous places to play in the postseason, that they were able to accomplish that. And so obviously the Royals take the loss in game one to the Yankees by a score of 6-5. Even though the Royals made it very interesting in the 6th inning for this one, the Yankees just had a little bit extra firepower. Sorry, stuttered there. So they got the 6-5 win. Yankees up 1-0 in the series. So game two is going to be starting up here in about 2 minutes, I believe. So I personally feel like the Royals are going to tie this up. At least I hope they do. My wife's saying, I need a win. Things haven't been going so well, sports betting wise. But there is one bet my wife still hasn't played that I'm going to cover at the end of this show, which also affects Ben's bets this week. So hoping for that win. Yeah, and I had a photo of it, and I don't know how the hell I forgot to upload it in regard to the Royals Yankee series where there was the incident where the tag out of a runner stealing second base, and it was pretty clear that he was out, and they reviewed it and said he was safe. And it's like, how do you look at this video and say he was safe? And so anyway, I don't know where the hell that photo went. I know I uploaded it, but for whatever reason, I forgot to email it to myself to get everything ready for the game. So anyway, game two, starting up here in a little bit. I'm going with the Royals on this one, but it is actually not going to be part of Ben's bets this week. So anyway, Phillies and Mets tied their series up. So Phillies with a monstrous comeback win in the 9th inning. Shout out to Nick Castellanos, not with a home run, but definitely got the game-winning RBI. Mets were just looking like they were just going to pop off. So, which they most notably did, but then so did the Phillies, in the later half of the game. But Mets just dominated game one. So glad to see this one kind of knotted up. I'm indifferent on this one as far as who wins the series for obvious reasons. I'm more focused on what the Padres are doing. So jump into that one. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani and company came back twice in game one against the Padres. Shohei just showing why he's the National League MVP, showing why he's a just dominant power hitter with his 3-run home run in his first at bat of the game. But going to yesterday, Padres absolutely crushing at the plate and crushing it defensively. Surprisingly, Luis Arias only 1 hit in 5 at bats yesterday. Would have kind of figured more from him. But Fernando Tatis is definitely the hot batter or the hot hand right now, as the Padres took game 2 10-2 and tied that series up. So that one's going back to San Diego, much like the Phillies Mets series is going back to New York. But of course, the incident that really kind of went down yesterday, Not this. This is an old photo, but I had to bring it up because it's one of my favorite videos from the last couple years in the postseason. The whole incident with Jurickson Profar out in left field, robbing a home run and then just kind of doing his little hop, and it fooled everybody, which was incredible. But then the incident of fans throwing baseballs at him, etc. What the fuck, guys? What are we doing? This is fun. This is a sport. Keep your shit under control, for God's sakes. It's fun. It's baseball. My God. But Sub Diego, great call there. Going into this game, I would not have figured that Darvish would have dominated, especially against his former team, the Dodgers, the way that he did. So shout out to him in regard to that. But I will say, yeah, going back to this other photo, the middle finger to the Dodger fan, and this was what division series from a couple years ago, is arguably just like one of the best moments that has ever been caught in a baseball game on camera. And especially with the length of this kid's finger, like it just just really hammers it in completely. So shout out to Padres fans. Moving into the WNBA, Sabrina Ionescu and the New York Liberty are moving back into the WNBA finals, taking the series against the reigning champion Las Vegas Aces 3-1. And of course, Sabrina with the big 22 points and a couple daggers of three-pointers throughout this game. This is why she and Steph went up against each other at the NBA All-Star game in their three-point competition. And it was pretty goddamn close. I was really pulling for Sabrina, not necessarily because she's a Duck and I'm a Duck, but I'm definitely signing with her because of this. And that's why I hope the New York Liberty, take this championship. So love it. Jared Clark, my former University of Oregon roommate in the chat. What is up, brother? But yeah, 76-62, 14-point victory. And the one thing I'm going to go back to that I talked about last week that still makes absolutely no sense to me is the fact that the Liberty and the Aces met up in the semifinals. Because of the fact that they are in two different conferences means they should not have met each other in the postseason until the championship. So with the addition of more teams, hopefully the WNBA gets that figured out. We never have this issue again. But we might be a few additional years away from that, especially considering the fact that in the next couple of years, of course, the WNBA is adding two more Western Conference teams, one more Eastern team, and that, of course, is Golden State, Portland in the West, and Toronto in the East. So still need to add one more to get that balance in there. But yes, I would like a legitimate East versus West in the championship game. Because realistically, I would have loved to have seen a rematch between the Aces and Liberty, but for the championship. So, but still two other teams going at it. This series is tied up. One more game tomorrow. Minnesota Lynx versus the Connecticut Sun. Connecticut Sun tie up yesterday with a 10-point victory over the Lynx. So, I've got my prediction in regard to how Game 5 is going to finish, but I will talk about that later in Ben's Bets. EPL, which I didn't talk about last week, but I'm going to hammer through this pretty quick. Liverpool back on their feet with a 1-0 victory over Crystal Palace. Arsenal with the 3-1 victory over Southampton. This one sucked because I had my wife, because she's in Vegas, put two bets down. One was a 2-leg parlay that involved Southampton and Fulham because both were like plus 1,000 underdogs going into both of their games. Fulham was playing Man City, Southampton, Arsenal, and the likelihood of it happening and both of them winning was very small. Like, don't get me wrong, but the mere fact that Southampton scored first in the second half, like, actually gave this like legs. Ugh. So anyway, I'm not surprised Arsenal won. They're a top 4 team for a reason. So anyway, moving on. Brentford absolutely dominated Wolverhampton. 2 minutes in, we got a goal. Crazy. But that's not out to be outdone by another game where they scored within the first minute, which I think was West Ham. But anyway, here's the Fulham Man City score. Same scenario. Fulham gets on the board first. So there was a possibility of this actually coming to fruition. And I mean, it would have been a $10 bet, which would have gotten us like $1,000, which would have been lovely. But not the case because Man City is the best team in the Premiership and has been so for like the last 6 or 7 years. Surprisingly, Erling Haaland did not get a goal in this match, which I'm actually kind of stoked about. So, but anyway, Kovacic and Doku did all the work. Fulham did try to make a comeback in the expiring minutes. Didn't happen. Man City wins 3-2. There it is. West Ham scoring in the first minute, which is nuts. 4-1 victory over Ipswich Town. No real surprise there. Leicester City getting a win over Bournemouth. This one surprised the hell out of me because I did not see this one coming. I would have figured it was going to end in a draw. Much like this one, Everton versus Newcastle. Shout out to Jordan Pickford, who hopefully was bought several steak dinners over the weekend because of his miraculous penalty kick saving block. This is what he's known for when all the years that he plays for England, they do the national team competition and stuff like that. And the fact that he was able to save the game, or at least save a loss. They still got 1 point because of the tie against Newcastle. So shout out to my boy. Aston Villa and Man United, equal balance of, defense and scoring opportunities for both squads, tied up 1 point each for both of them. And this was funny because the other bet that I had put together that I had my wife place for me. So shout out to the Wire Fraud Act and Interstate Commerce. Was so the first leg for the 3-leg was Fulham over Man City. Obviously that fell apart. I think I had West Ham and Ipswich Town tying, but West Ham obviously blew Ipswich Town out of the water 4-1. This was the only leg that was correct. I had Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest ending in a draw, which thank God it happened because Nottingham Forest obviously scored first, and then 8 minutes later, Chelsea tied it up. And then a few 20 minutes or so after that, Nottingham Forest gets a red card. So Southside Steven Seavright, he and I are both Chelsea fans. I was asleep during the game just because I had a late night the night before. So completely forgot about the game, missed it. But based on what he said, there were some opportunities where Chelsea should have probably won 4-1. And I'm not surprised by that. Chelsea has their problems scoring on occasion. But then again, you look back a couple weeks, and why I thought this was going to be a draw was because Nottingham Forest with a surprise win over Liverpool. So I felt like, yeah, both are playing, some good soccer right now. So I could see it 1-1. And that's exactly what happened. So anyway, and then this game, Brighton 3-2 victory over Tottenham. Tottenham just kind of falling apart right now, which is kind of sad to see. But I should probably be actually happy with it, considering the fact that Tottenham and Chelsea both play in London, and I should be anti-Tottenham, but I'm not. I'm really not. So anyway, here's the table right now. Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, and Chelsea ran out the top 4, barely edging Aston Villa, who's in Champions League at the moment. So liking this so far. Only 4 points separate Liverpool and Chelsea, which is kind of a good position to be in for them. Tottenham, Fulham, and Newcastle 7, 8, 9 respectively. Nottingham Forest in the 10. Everton, I'm happy to see out of the bottom 3. They are in 16 with 5 points right now. Leicester City at 6, and then Crystal Palace, Southampton, Wolverhampton. Rounding out the bottom 3, currently in the relegation zone, and the one squad that I feel like is going to get themselves out of it is, of course, Crystal Palace. I feel like Ipswich Town is going to flip-flop there in a sec. But it's weird because Crystal Palace was, like, the last 10 games of the season, a very, very dominant when it came to scoring. They didn't necessarily translate into wins, but a lot of ties and stuff out of that, which kept them, at least in the upper half of the table. So hopefully we see them get out of it. So anyway, Brother Bishop, what is going on? Brother Bishop says, dude, that scared your boy for a second, like just a second, in regard to, because he's a big Arsenal fan. So talking about Southampton scoring first. So thought I had it, man. I thought I had it. Anyway, college football. Arguably one of the greatest weekends in college football history. Definitely for sure in the 12-team playoff era, which of course we're in the first year of that. But anyway, Oregon getting the job done on Friday against Michigan State. No real surprise there. The bigger surprise was Dylan Gabriel throwing 2 interceptions in the first quarter. What the fuck, dude? But what's even crazier is the reality of how similar this game ran to Flip the Script that I did last week for Duck Dynasty. Granted, the final score in that game was 24-7. So off by a touchdown and a field goal, respectively, on either side. But there was a moment where it's like Michigan State had a field goal block, which I did against Michigan State. in the game and then threw 2 picks with Dylan Gabriel. So that was kind of crazy. But Jordan James balled his ass off, got a touchdown, and rushed for, I think, over 150 yards, 153 if I'm not mistaken. Why not? But anyway, going to the Saturday games, A&M with the big upset over Missouri, which I'm not even going to call that an upset. And I know Logan Herrera, if he was here, would not call an upset either. Missouri was just kind of going. I don't know. I'm trying to put this into words. Missouri was a top 10 team going into this game and had no right to be there. And especially considering, go back a couple weeks when I had that $300,000 bet that I could have won based on what, $5. I had Vanderbilt upsetting Missouri in that game, and they should have done it, but they missed the field goal in the second overtime to tie it up and take it to a third overtime. So anyway, Missouri was going to fumble at some point, and Texas A&M took care of business on that one. So anyway, Penn State still undefeated, 27-11 over UCLA. UCLA just god awful right now. SMU upset win over Louisville, 34-27. Pittsburgh dominating, we'll say, 10-point victory over North Carolina. North Carolina's got a lot of problems right now, and it doesn't necessarily start with the James Madison game. Like losing Drake May to the draft was probably like one of the worst things that could have happened to them, because they have no suitable replacement at quarterback for him. Indiana, second time in the school history they are starting college football 6-0. Currently ranked 18th. Granted, there's going to be a point in time where they might come back down to reality. They have not really faced anybody tough yet. But to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing the Hoosiers keep winning games, even though they're in the same conference as Oregon right now. But it's Indiana. They've never been a threat to anybody in college football. But 41-24 over Northwestern. Georgia back on the win train, 31-13 over Auburn after their unfortunate loss to Alabama in the previous week, which hands down was, and I mean was, the best college football game of the season, at least until, I'll get to it here in a second. Ole Miss back on the wins as well, 27-3 over South Carolina. Ohio State dominated Iowa. No real surprise there, 35-7. Here it is, your game of the year so far. Vanderbilt. I hate to say, I mean, there's a part of me that called this. The only unfortunate part is the fact that I did not have my wife bet on it until like halfway through the first quarter. And I'm just like, oh my God, Vanderbilt's going to win this fucking game. I know it. And sure enough, they did. And I'm not saying Bama's a fraud or anything of that nature. Granted, the quarterback for Vanderbilt, second time in his collegiate career. I mean, because he's played for 3 different colleges, so this is his 6th year in college football. He was with New Mexico State last year, had a top 25 upset last year. So go figured it was going to happen again. I just thought it was going to happen against Missouri a couple weeks ago, like I had said. Not against the number 1 team in the country, Alabama, and especially not after Alabama had that miraculous win over Georgia. So it goes back to, and you guys have probably seen this clip numerous times, of Nick Saban talking about playing at Vanderbilt and how it's zero threat to anybody in the SEC, which rightfully so, considering the fact that Vanderbilt really had done nothing in the SEC for the last, I don't know, let's say 20 years for sure. But even before that, Vanderbilt teams were just never on par with like an Alabama, a Georgia, an LSU, and so on and so forth. So I, of course, watched this game with great interest, and it was actually the first time I'd ever watched a game on the SEC network, just because the fact that there's no way in hell CBS was going to have this game over Georgia Auburn. So no surprise there. But damn, Vanderbilt, and I mean, I'm not even joking, dominated this game. Both sides of the ball. I mean, they shut Monroe and company down. And yes, Vanderbilt only won by 5. But it took some like miraculous plays on Alabama's offense to finally actually get some points on the board. Vanderbilt, I mean, pretty much from the pick 6 at the beginning of the game, therefore on, just controlled. Impressive. And like I said, they were going like plus 1,200 for this game. God, I wish I threw some money on that. Congrats, Vandy. You guys earned it. Clemson, 29-13 over Florida State. No surprise there. Boise State, my God, 62-30 over Utah State. Utah State just being the punching bag of college football this year. But Janti, 186 yards, 3 more touchdowns to his resume. So he is for sure over 1,000 yards on the season. And we're only 5 games in, not to mention the fact that he's got 11 touchdowns. So as much as everybody wants to say, oh, Cam Ward is the consensus favorite for the Heisman Trophy, Janti, Boise State, keep an eye on that kid. Iowa State, 43-21 over Baylor. No surprise there. Big upset here. Arkansas over Tennessee. And the most notable thing to realize if you didn't watch this game is that Arkansas lost their starting quarterback with about 7 minutes left in the game. So, of course, a stretched out, but not game ready necessarily backup quarterback going into the game with the march down the field for the eventual game-winning touchdown. And, of course, defense just shutting it down on Tennessee's last drive. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. That's all I could say. Washington upset win over Michigan, 27-17. That's basically Washington's Super Bowl so far on the year. And then, of course, this fucking game. So up until the start of this game, there had been 5 teams in the top 11, which first time that's ever happened in a weekend of teams that were upset. So 5 teams, unranked, ranked, whatever, that upset top 11 teams. And at this point in time, when the game started, like Miami was sitting at number 8, and Cal was, needless to say, dominating. And I mean dominating. I mean, they were up fucking 35-10 at halftime. And somehow, sorry. They were up 35-10 at some point in the third quarter. So 25-point margin. And somehow only managed to score 3 points in the fourth quarter and allowed Miami not only to get back into the game, but score a game-winning touchdown on their final drive. Now, there were some moments where it's like, what the fuck, referees? And you can shout conspiracy all you want. There is some plausibility to the conspiracies, such as the helmet-to-helmet targeting that was originally called and then overturned, despite the fact that video evidence showed that Cal's quarterback took a fucking helmet to the head. Don't know why that was overturned. And then, of course, on the, couple plays before that, where there was a face mask called against Miami, which pushed them down the field. But on the very next play, there was another face mask penalty that was not called. So 2 different times where it's like, all right, there should have been, a massive 15-yard penalty coming out of this. Nope, Cal couldn't get it done. And then, of course, on Miami's ensuing game-winning drive, the ineligible receiver downfield that was not called, which basically set up the game-winning touchdown. So, yes, to some degree, because the fact that, the ACC needs some kind of representation in the top 12, top 10, top 5, whatever you want. And Miami seems to be that school, but it should not have happened this weekend. Like, Cal should have won this game. And especially with game day being there for the first time ever. And then that kid in the Vans who won $100,000 by kicking a 30-plus yard field goal. Fuck, man. This was Cal's moment to dominate and really put themselves on the map for something outside of swimming and politics. But swimming, most notably, shout out to Katie Ledecky. But yeah, seriously, Cal had one fucking job, and Justin Wilcox and company somehow managed to fuck that up. And which really leads to the question, I mean, especially considering the fact that it's still a mystery that Cal had lost to Florida State, and that was Florida State's only win on the season. So going into this game, they should have been undefeated. Fuck, man. It sucks. It sucks. And I ended up not going to the game, which I'm actually happier about that I did not. I was really contemplating it, but the buddy I was going to go with ended up having to work, so that's why I didn't go. Oh, Cal should have had this. And then we would have had 6 teams in the top 11 get just absolutely dunked on in a weekend of college football. So whatever. But, the good thing is Oregon actually benefited from this weekend completely. So going to the top 10, notable teams move up, several teams move down. Texas back in the 1 spot, followed by Ohio State. And then look at that, Oregon back to the 3. The thing to notice with this, and then Penn State at 4, Georgia at 5. Oregon at the moment for top 5 teams is the only school that has beaten a ranked team during the season. I'm talking about a team that is currently ranked. And that, of course, is Boise State. And the reason I bring this up is because the fact that after Oregon beat Boise State in week 2, they somehow fell 2 spots in the rankings, or it might have been 3. What the fuck? Like, how does Oregon and every other school that has played Boise State so far finally benefit from this at the end of week 6? Like, this makes no sense. Oregon was still probably going to be in the 2nd or 3rd spot, even if they didn't move down, despite the fact that they started the season 4-0, just because of what Texas and Ohio State are doing right now. But it is absolute bullshit that Oregon got penalized after their first 2 wins of the season. Yeah, there were close margin victories, but then all of a sudden at the end of week 6, it's like, oh, hey, we fucked up. Let's fix this. Fuck that, man. Miami moves to 6, Bama down to 7, Tennessee down to 8, Ole Miss to 9, Clemson to 10. So realistically, Texas, Georgia, there's 2, Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss. Still got 5 teams out of the SEC in the top 10, which makes little to no sense to me. But out of the Big 10, you got Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and that's it. And then 2 representatives from the ACC and Clemson and Miami. So why the fuck Clemson's there at 4-1 just makes no sense to me. But anyway, moving on. So Iowa State, then Notre Dame somehow has gotten back up to 12 despite their loss to Northern Illinois, which whatever. BYU jumping up to 14. Awesome. A&M jumping 10 spots to 15. Okay. Sure. Whatever. Illinois somehow dropping down to 23 despite losing to Nebraska. Both teams were ranked. Like, how the hell did they get penalized so fucking bad? And Michigan's still in the top 25. Another mystery to me. So the AP, you make no sense when you're talking about ranking college football teams. So thankfully it's a 12-team playoff, because if this was still a 4-team, holy fuck, this would be a nightmare. On to the NFL to wrap things up. What the fuck, Tampa? And this game goes completely on Todd Bowles' lack of, one, utilizing a great tandem of running backs in Rashawn White and Bucky Irving. But then most notably, when you have the ball in the closing minutes, why in fuck are you throwing it? Because any incomplete, which did happen, is going to stop the goddamn clock, especially when you're trying to make the Atlanta Falcons burn all their timeouts. What are you fucking doing, Todd Bowles? This is the same shit and the same reason they lost against the Lions in the NFC playoffs. Unbelievable. Buccaneers were a +2.5 underdog going this game, and it's just like, cool, just give me the money. And yeah, the game was in Atlanta, but so what? At the same time, I was not expecting Kirk Cousins to have the game of his fucking life, especially on Matt Ryan Ring of Honor night, because Kirk Cousins just went in there and broke every passing touchdown record that Matt Ryan threw up. And he did it in one fucking game on his night. Oh, my God. But most notably, with the defense of Tampa Bay, their secondary is god-awful, which is crazy considering the fact that their secondary was like one of the primary reasons why they won a Super Bowl against the Chiefs during the COVID year. So why Tampa Bay has just been so accepting of letting players walk and then, oh yeah, we'll find somebody else, despite the fact that their defensive line, their linebacker system, shout out to Levante David, who's been there for fucking ever, is, you know, rock solid, tough as nails, whatever. But the secondary is just trash. And Atlanta exposed it. And it's not to say that, you know, Tampa Bay's offense had a bad game or anything like that. It was just dumb play calling. And even Bucky Irving's fumble, which happened at the worst possible time. The great thing is linebackers came through on the very next play for Atlanta and got an interception. So didn't lose any ground necessarily, except for maybe like 10 yards, whatever. But Tampa Bay, you blew it. And Todd Bowles, this loss goes on your shoulders. London game yesterday morning. Vikings win 23-17 over the New York Jets. No real surprise there. Aaron Rodgers looking like trash. 3 interceptions on the day for him. Andy Dalton and company. Sam Darnold and company. My bad. I knew it sounded wrong as soon as it came out of my mouth. Still dominating, still 5-0 in the NFC North. Chicago Bears. This fucking game. And I'm gonna talk about it again afterward. Okay, going back to comments because I was kind of got on a tangent there, just going through all these scores and stuff like that. But Flashfire says Ohio State should be behind Oregon. Their schedule has been weaker. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But what's great is this weekend, both teams get to play each other in Eugene, and College Game Day's going there. And I'm jealous I can't be there. I hope you're going, Flash. And Jared, I hope you're going too. Even just a tailgate. Do it. I know the Andy Dalton magic only lasted for one goddamn game. But Caleb Williams was definitely connecting pretty hard with DJ Moore in this game. 36-10 final score there. Something crazy happened during this game, but like I said, I'm going to bring it up at the end after I go through all these other games. So Jaden Daniels looking like a goddamn MVP himself. Another win for the Commanders, 34-13. Only a matter of time before Deshaun Watson is out of Cleveland. Like they're going to eat that money, and it's still madness that they paid him all that money despite everything that was going on. Dolphins 15-10. I am pissed about this game because in my Pick'ems league, I definitely took the Pats, but most notably, I always complain about how I hate the rules in the National Football League, and here's a prime example of one happening. Well, here's the last play of the game for the Pats. That right foot had already touched down in the end zone. And then you see the other foot. Oh, you got the toes in. He did catch the ball. But there is a rule because obviously going to the sideline, you can just get the toes in and twinkle toe yourself in bounds. But the rule in the end zone, falling into the back of the end zone is, I got to be more specific about this. Because Dan Blandino was talking about this during the game. It's yeah. If your body is facing the field, you have to have both feet completely down. But if you're going out of bounds to the sides, you only need to get your toes in. What the fuck kind of a rule is that? Absolute horseshit. So, of course, it cost the Pats the game. And this is definitely going to be something that's on the docket for the next owners' meetings, or it has to be, because that is fucking insane. Fucking insane. And this is why it's like, okay, I love college football so much more because you only need to get one foot in. Makes it easier. Just the level of doubling down on the stupidity that goes through the National Football League is just, I can't take it, man. And especially when it comes to gambling, because you know people are just losing their shit because of this game. Like me. Moving on, Jacksonville finally getting a win against Indianapolis, despite the fact that Joe Flacco, Smoking Joe, the elite, is still putting on dominating performance. But 37-34 in favor of the Jaguars. Texans 23-20, game-winning 50-plus yard field goal from them. Bills had so many opportunities, but their goddamn coach, much like Todd Bowles, is definitely pretty responsible for this loss. So it's only a matter of time before he's gone. Like, has to be gone. This was a great game. Ravens in overtime over the Bengals. Massive comeback win. Massive comeback win for the Ravens. Definitely closed out the fourth quarter efficiently. But most notably, both teams had opportunities to win this game in their first possessions in overtime, and especially considering the fact that the Bengals were able to force a fumble on Lamar Jackson to set themselves up for, I'm not going to say a chip shot of a field goal, but it would have been relatively easy for a veteran kicker. But the placeholder dropped the ball, like fumbled the ball basically, and set up a really bad kick. And then the Ravens get the ball back. Derrick Henry just choo-choo down the field, which allowed Justin Tucker to kick a game-winning field goal. And thank God he did, because the spread in this game was 2.5 points in favor of the Ravens, which I took. Hell yeah. But I know this was a lose-lose scenario for David Kearns, the Steeler fan that he is. I know he was hoping for a tie, but obviously for gambling purposes, I was hoping for the Ravens to win by 3, and they did. Bo Nix, the legend of Bo Nix, just gets better week after week after week. And I love the fact, I mean, it's not because he's an Oregon guy, but unlike Russell Wilson, who just took Sean Payton's shit game after game after game, had a fiery moment on the sideline. And this was like relatively early in the game when the Raiders were still winning. And Bo Nix just had it out with him, which I got to say, as a player, you gotta have your boys back on that one. Yes, coach's word is the final word and the word of God, etc. But when you have a leader like Bo Nix, and especially a starting quarterback of Bo Nix, who's just going to take it to God, quote unquote, Sean Payton, the way that he did, and just completely dominate the rest of the game, you got to back that guy up. So shout out to Bo Nix and company, 34-18 victory over the Raiders. And Tone Cruz, yes, Ryan Clark's tweet about this said it all. 100% agree about that. Fucking Cardinals, man. Before this game started, I had a weird feeling because in our Pick'ems league, I took the Niners -7.5. I need some water. Hold on. Niners -7.5. And just had a feeling, you know what? The Cardinals are going to get up some stupid shit today, despite the fact that the game is at Levi's. And I should have changed it, and I didn't. And then go figure, Kyler Murray with his 50-yard touchdown run to basically start the game. It's just like, fuck, I'm in one. I'm in one right now. But as the game progressed, Niners defense clapped down. Shout out to University of Oregon's Lenore with the block punt and touchdown. And as my friend Kyle Madison, aka former Hat Club employee, pointed out, somehow the Niners are 0-2 when they block a field goal and score a touchdown on the ensuing moment. That's crazy. That is fucking crazy. And then, yes, losing Moody because after a kickoff, him, having his boys' backs and try to make the tackle, leg injury. So now they're going to throw Wisnowski in to kick a field goal, which he hit, later in the game. What the fuck? Just everything that could possibly go wrong for the Niners happened. And shout out to the Cardinals for getting that fucking win at Levi's, man. Just back-to-back heartbreakers for the Niners. Absolutely insane. And of course, this game is going to come up again later when I go into Ben's bets. Giants with the win over the Seahawks. I know if G. Laurent was here, he'd be fuming pissed right now, and rightfully so, because the Giants, I'm not going to say they should have lost this game, but it should have gone to overtime. And here's why. This was bullshit. This is defensive holding. You cannot force the center into the ground to let one of your teammates to jump over him, block the field goal, and of course the Giants ran the touchdown back. Granted, I had the Giants in our Pick'ems league +6.5, so this really helped out. But it's still bullshit, dude. Whereas once again, the rules of the NFL fucking suck. Because if this would have happened in college, no way in hell they're going to keep a flag in their pocket. What the fuck, man? But yeah, 29-20 victory over the Seahawks. Absolutely insane that happened. But I love that it happened. I love that it happened because it helped me out. Packers 24-19. Jordan Love didn't wake up until the second half, and thank God he did. Hitting Kraft, their tight end, for 2 touchdowns toward the end of the game. 24-19 victory. So I know Jared was stoked about it. I know my wife was stoked about it because they're both Packer backers. And then this game, last night's game, which I was doing inventory audit at Great Mall till like midnight. So I had taken the Cowboys +2.5. So it's not necessarily that I needed them to win. I just needed them to not lose by more than 3 points. And obviously they were down by 4 on their final drive, which they got the game-winning touchdown out of it. So thank God for that. Sorry, David Kearns. I thought the Steelers actually had this wrapped up. What blew my mind was at 9:30 when the game should have been long over, and seeing that the game was still going on, I was like, what the fuck happened? But obviously there was a weather delay, lightning storms and stuff like that, which shut it down. But anyway, Yeah, could have used more field goals out of Brandon Aubrey and some more touchdown and yards out of CeeDee Lamb, because I got my ass handed to me by Grambo this week in fantasy football, which fucking sucks. But anyway, at least I got this last one correct. But anyway, going back to the Bears game, I wanted to bring this up. So wait, hold on. Flashfire says my picks this week were weird. Lost all 3 of my lowest confidence games and my 2 highest ones. Casey needs to get the job done tonight. No. And I'll explain why here in a second, why I say no. So my good friend Ryan, we went to college together, friends with my friend Jared, who's here in the chat. He lives in Chicago, lifelong Bears fan. Sent me this screenshot yesterday after the Bears game. This is a bet that he placed on DraftKings. Yes, that is a 13 pick parlay of Bears -4, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, a lot of shit there. You guys can read it. $25 he threw down, and he won $47,000. Yeah. And then today it's been bouncing over like a lot of like gambling Twitter accounts and Instagram accounts and stuff like that. But what the fuck, dude? And the craziest part about it is, for as lifelong of a Bears fan that he is, there was one important thing that happened, and we're talking years ago, that set this win up for him that somehow he forgot about until I broke it down. And I made sure to actually keep this screenshot. This fucking trade right here is the whole reason why he won that bet. Because one trade which sent DJ Moore from Panthers to the Bears, and then eventually set up the pick that would be Caleb Williams in this year's draft. And that ended up being the #1 overall pick last year of Bryce Young for the Panthers. If this trade didn't happen, well, I mean, more than likely, it's like he wouldn't have bet on that the way that it worked out. But fucking crazy that this one moment in history, butterfly flaps its wings, and that's the end result of my boy dropping $25 and winning $47,000. And him and his wife just had a kid recently, so I'm sure that's going to help out financially for them. So shout out to you, Ryan. Love it, man. Love that it happened for one of us. Anyway, moving on to Ben's bets. I 50-50 this week. It's fine. I definitely had Miami over Cal, which thank God I did in this, but I still would have preferred Cal win. The Seahawks did not cover against the Lions. I think they lost by 14 or 15. The Liberty did beat the Aces in game 1. Shout out to them. And then Fulham did not beat Man City. God damn it. So anyway, 50-50 on the week. So for this week, my lock of the week tonight, I got the Saints over the Chiefs at +200. Sorry, Flash. Sorry. But the way that my bets go, you might actually be taking this one. So maybe I should have just kept my mouth shut on this one. I've got the Royals over the Yankees tonight, to which case that game has started. Let's see what kind of score we got here right now. Hold on one sec. MLB games. 0-0, top of the third. All right, cool. Royals over the Yankees tonight, +125. I've got the Lynx over the Connecticut Sun tomorrow in that last game for the WNBA semifinals. And then here's the shocker for this weekend. I've got Oklahoma over Texas. I feel like Texas really hasn't played anybody legit. Yeah, they beat Michigan, and that's like their biggest win so far. But it's not to say that I think Oklahoma is better than Texas. I just feel like some weird shit's going to happen that's going to allow Oklahoma to hang in this one, especially for a Red River Classic, and take Texas down. So I hope this happens because, yes, and this is why I'm not betting on Oregon this weekend in any capacity, because I'm done betting on my teams. Done. I don't want to fuck it up. Yes, Oregon is +3.5 underdogs going in this game at home against Ohio State. But yes, if Oklahoma beats Texas, Oregon beats Ohio State, Oregon, #1 team in the country. And then realistically, you look at the schedule that they have for the rest of the year, they could hang on to that going into the playoff. So I'm not trying to put all my eggs in one basket. I hope it happens. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily praying that Oregon is the number 1 team in the country going into Monday. Like, I just want them to finish top 5 and preferably without losing the game. So that's the biggest thing for me. So, woo, let's hope it happens. So anyway, the bigger reason why I need the Saints to win tonight is the bet that my wife put in yesterday. Thanks to me, I put this one together. I gave her $5. She had $5 of her own. We took all the biggest underdogs of the weekend into a parlay. And yes, Cardinals with the win. Giants with the win. Just need the Saints. $10 will get us $427. Let's fucking do this. Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara and company. I know Taysom Hill's out. Fuck. But please, for the love of God, New Orleans, get this fucking win tonight. Get this fucking win. Flashfire says, yeah, those are my 3 highest confidence picks for the favorites. I guess I could live with you getting the money. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Especially considering the fact I'm going into Vegas after I go to Arizona Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I'll be able to lay some money down for the weekend. And I'm actually going to, the whole reason I'm going is mainly just to watch football all weekend. Since I can't go to Eugene for the game, I feel like Vegas is the next best place to watch Ohio State, Oregon. With the buddy from college. So anyway, Flashfire says, I mean, most people probably pick Casey high in our group, so loss doesn't hurt. Yeah, I know. This is like the biggest fear that I have. Obviously, it's Monday Night Football, but then most notably, it's the Chiefs at home. And based on the way calls have been going in favor of the Chiefs over the last number of years, that's my big terrifying point. So New Orleans, don't fucking hold on offense. Make all your goddamn catches. Do not lose any fumbles. Do not throw any picks, Derek Carr, for the love of God. Yes, I'm fully aware the Saints are on some bullshit right now. But the Chiefs, at the same time, are losing a lot of their offensive weapons. So this could be the night. This could be the night that it all comes together and the Saints get a win against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football at Arrowhead. That would be fucking lovely. So anyway, game's about to start. I'll let you guys go. Recap is going to be tomorrow as in Tuesday, just because Austin and I will be on flights to Arizona on Wednesday. So I'm trying to think if I'm even going to be able to do flip the script this week or not. Probably not. I didn't take the week off for bye week a couple weeks ago. I kind of got ahead of it. So, but based on what I did to Michigan State, I'm kind of tempted to play it and hopefully get a win against Ohio State and, predict the future a little bit. So I'll try and figure it out for tomorrow. I'd rather get it done and make this happen. So, but anyway, guys, as always, absolute pleasure to see you and talk sports with you. As always, take it easy. And if you don't, take it sleazy. See you guys tomorrow for recap and hopefully flip the script. Peace.